I don't normally hear that. So this morning we hear the story from the Gospel of Matthew. So the second Sunday of Christmas is sort of an interesting Sunday in that it doesn't happen every year. It just depends on where Christmas falls and how the 12 days between Christmas and Epiphany, whether you get one Sunday or two. And this year we happen to have 2 Sundays. So every year they offer the same lessons. And one of them is this one from the Gospel of Matthew, the wise men visiting Mary and Jesus and Joseph. The other 2 options, though, are also interesting. One of them follows directly what we just read. So the wise men leave. Joseph has a dream that it's unsafe to be in Israel because of Herod, and flees with the family to Egypt. So that's one of the other choices for today. And then the other choice for this morning is Jesus, when he's 12, getting left in the temple for 3 days. So it's sort of, people can pick and choose, but I picked the wise men just because we don't often hear the story. The only times we really would hear the story is on Epiphany, which is this coming Thursday. So we have the story of the wise men visiting Mary, Jesus, and Joseph. And there's a couple of things I just want to point out, and I don't want them to ruin your image of Christmas. We had this conversation on a couple of Zoom calls this Advent season. But just sort of noticing that what we celebrate, and often the things that we raise up as things that happen in the Bible aren't actually in the Bible. So that's just an interesting sort of tradition has played itself out over 2,000 years. So first thing to notice, it never says there's 3 wise men, right? There's 3 gifts, but we don't know actually how many wise men there are. The family's no longer in the stable. So we always put the wise men with the crush set, and depending on how much of a purist you are, your wise men aren't in their crush set yet. They are off still in the east, traveling, won't arrive there until Thursday. But they actually don't arrive at this stable at all. They arrive in the house. So the family has gone to a house in Bethlehem. Bethlehem is just outside Jerusalem, about 7 miles outside of Jerusalem. And the wise men are guided there by a star. So notice first they go to Jerusalem, meet Herod. Herod says, go find this baby. And Herod is scared. He's heard that this Jesus is king of the Jews. And because he has this title king, Herod is worried that he's going to sort of usurp or take Herod's power, which is the reason, similar, thinking all the way back to Moses, that he kills the babies or wants to kill the babies, because he wants to try to take this threat completely away. So we don't know when this happens. There's really no timeline given. It doesn't follow the Gospel of Luke, where we sort of have a sequence of events. And so we can assume that Jesus is still less than 2 because Herod wants to kill all the babies 2 or less, but we don't know how old he is necessarily. But I think the interesting thing, though, to think about is gifts, which we'll talk more about. But the gifts that the wise men bring, all good storytellers, all have a reason. They all have a symbol for something. Because I think if any of you were to go visit a baby, you wouldn't bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh, right? You bring diapers and formula and toys and those sorts of things. So why gold, frankincense, and myrrh? And the song we just sang actually explains it very well. So the gold represents Jesus' royalty. So he is a king in some way. We know he's not going to be an earthly king. And so the gold represents that. The myrrh in the first century was used to anoint bodies. So in that verse about the myrrh, it's kind of dark and gloomy because it's foreshadowing Jesus' death. So we know that after he dies, he's anointed. So that's sort of foreshadowing that. And then frankincense was burned on altars to symbolize divinity. So all of these gold, frankincense, and myrrh have sort of a deeper meaning, which makes it a little more understandable why these wise men would bring them. The other thing I really like about this story from Matthew is that dreams play a part in it, which is also just sort of different. So before Jesus is born, Joseph has a dream, and he's trying to decide whether to stay married, whether to keep Mary around because she's pregnant, and in the first century that would have just been such a scandal. And he has a dream, and in the dream he's told by the angel, no, like, protect her, take care of her, take care of the child. So he does. Then the wise men have a dream after they visit the family that it's not safe to go back to Herod for all of the reasons we've already mentioned. So they don't. And then right after that, Joseph has another dream about fleeing to Egypt for his family's safety. So however you feel about dreams and whether dreams sort of give you messages and all that sort of thing, it's an interesting sort of idea that in this Gospel of Luke, main events are sort of guided by dreams. So it's the second Sunday of Christmas. I mean, the whole world sort of has like moved on from Christmas. In the church, we hang on for another 4 days, but it's still a good time to think about gifts. So think about maybe the gifts that you've received this year, the gifts you've received in the past. The wise men were bringing gifts to the family that they probably neither wanted nor were expecting, but they had a special meaning. So there's probably been gifts in your life that you weren't expecting or maybe didn't even want when you received them. And then as time went on, you realized that there was something really special about these gifts. We probably all have favorite gifts, things that we remember exactly who gave it to us or where we were when we received it or why we received it. And then also just thinking about those gifts that become meaningful. So sometimes the most meaningful gifts are the ones that we don't expect, the ones that we didn't ask for. So how has that sort of played out in your life? And then we sort of give each other these tangible items as like a symbol of love or a symbol of gratitude or affection. But then we also are called as followers of Jesus to be gifts to each other. So how can you live your life in this way where you are receiving love, receiving grace, and then giving those back out just as willingly as you receive them? And then letting God's presence be a gift and then kind of guide you and help you share that with other people. So we have this new year. And as I mentioned in Design Connection on Sunday, 2021 probably wasn't what we were expecting. I think last year at this time we were like, yeah, the pandemic will be over and it'll all be fine. And here we are still sitting in masks and we have no idea. Right? We just have no idea. So how can we allow this new year to be a gift for us? Where can we find new beginnings? Where can we find new opportunities? Because often in new beginnings and new opportunities, there is potential for a gift. There's potential for something to happen that you are not expecting and something that ends up being a blessing. So I leave you with these words from Henry Nouwen, who is one of my favorite theologians, and he is reflecting on the new year. And he says, we must learn to live each day, each hour, yes, each minute as a new beginning, as a unique opportunity to make everything new. Imagine that we could live each moment as a moment pregnant with new life. Imagine that we could live each day as a day full of promises. Imagine that we could walk through the new year, always listening to the voice saying to us, I have a gift for you, and I can't wait for you to see it. Imagine. Amen.
Amen.